Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it Mondays here at Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency, lot to get to today. It is National Championship Football, TCU-Georgia. That follows us on many of our Hail Varsity Radio affiliates. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark is somewhere. He is anxious to get back at it. I'm waiting for someone to walk behind you, Connor, with a hood and put it over your head. It looked, frankly, like a hostage situation. Elijah's at least in studio. I'm in the main studio. And the Connor's, somewhere in an undisclosed safe house right now.
No art on the walls. There's no distinguishing location for a reason.
There's no Chicago Bears mascot with a tear down its cheek. Although it could be tears of joy with the top pick overall. Thanks,
it was a good
Lovey.
day yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, here's the thing.
You get worked and you get the number one pick overall. Too bad you got a quarterback already.
See, I was texting.
Lost too.
Packers did lose, but I was texting Schmidt yesterday. I made myself a steak dinner last night because I was celebrating the joyful end of the Broncos season. Finally, after a fall of pain and suffering, it was all over. And then they find a way to pull out a win. So it was a good Sunday for me as well, because it didn't matter what the Broncos did. No matter what happened, they weren't getting their first round pick this year. So I could root for a win. Didn't matter. Got myself a steak dinner at the end of the night. And I'm excited to actually watch good football in the playoffs because I have had a full fall of watching terrible football. Thanks, Broncos.
Let's see if the college football playoff gets it kicked off. Numbers to get in. Join us today on Hail Varsity Radio, 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Can email the show, chris@hailvarsity.com. And if you want to watch the show, please do so. Hail Varsity YouTube channel. You can click on there and find us on the Hail Varsity YouTube. Hail Varsity Radio at HVarsity Radio on Twitter is where you can watch. That's also where you catch Coffee and Cream, Damon and Andrew, weekday mornings, 7 to 9. And also the ESPN platform, ESPN link in Facebook and Twitter. I have 2 coins in my hand. While it isn't much, it is something. For the next national championship game, should start a GoFundMe for the fan bases to cover their bar tab for tonight. SoFi Stadium is charging $19 for a Modelo Tallboy. I don't know what the other options are. I know there's box wine. I know that a hot dog's going to run you like $13. I know sandwiches and street tacos are going to run you $15. But I love me some Modelo. Not endorsing it. I just tell you that's what I order. Elijah can vouch. I order Modelo with a lime. I won't even get a freaking lime at SoFi tonight. I can't tailgate. I can't bring the smoker, and it's raining, or it has been in LA. Not that it matters. They'll just kind of zip up the top. But the point is think about going and watching your national title game. They served beer at the Orange Bowl way the hell back when, and I think maybe that ran my old man $9. But now you're going to get a tall boy of Modelo for $19. Well, so I think it's only fair that somebody needs to start a GoFundMe for the college football championship game.
At least the student section. At least the student section. The student section's who I feel for here, because the other people, if you have tickets to the national championship game, it's almost like a Super Bowl at this point, where I go, you've got money to blow on. What was it at SoFi Stadium last year for the Super Bowl? It was like something stupid, like, wasn't $10,000 for a parking pass into the parking lot at SoFi? Probably. And it was like $1,000 for like street spots in front of people's houses in the neighborhood around the stadium, like bonkers stuff. And that's how LA goes. But that's just how these big professional. Very fair point. We need to start a GoFundMe for the students. Yeah. So, but like the people who go to these events, they can probably afford it. You're getting airfare to LA probably if you're coming from either Georgia or Texas. That'd be a brutal road trip to make. You're probably paying for airfare. You're paying for a hotel in California during college football playoff weekend. Like, you had money to go to this event. You can probably afford a $19 beer, or you could just not drink.
But it's going to hurt taking the 20 out of your wallet.
A little bit, but it's the student section of people, because you know there's students from TCU and Georgia that have all hopped in some minivan and they've been road tripping across the country for the past 3 days. They got their cheaper student section seats through university, and they're just trying to make ends meet, and now they got to spend $20 for beer, and oh hey, there's no tailgating in the parking lot for you to get a nice pregame going either. Those poor kids are straight out of luck tonight.
Well, and how many of them are fishing for money line options 4-1 with TCU? That's the payout right now. It's a 4-1 payout. Your odds, if you were working the Magic 8 Ball before the college football season kicked off, 500-1 for TCU. Long shot. Brett Edwards going to break it down with us here at the national title game. Brad's covered 1 million of these. He's got a great background with the SEC. What does he think tonight? Brad Edwards, longtime college football insider, will be with us in about 20 minutes. He'll jump in on the stream with us in hour 2. Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride. A lot to talk to Charlie about in the new year. Not only new defensive coordinator Tony White, the 3-3-5, but also tonight's matchup. And Uncle Charlie knows a thing or two about going into a national title game heavily underdogged. This is the largest playoff era point spread there's been. It's minus 12.5 right now. Georgia's favored. Nebraska 30 years ago went into the Orange Bowl against Charlie Ward and Florida State. They were underdogged by 17.5. Trev Alberts went nuts that game. Went nuts all season, quite honestly. But what a ball game in that 18-16 theft that occurred. If you ask a lot of Nebraska fans, Elijah and Connor right now are looking at each other. What was 1993 like? I get it, fellas. Way before your time. But trust me, when it comes to Cinderella, the underdog, that emotion that you can ride. We'll get to that in hour 2. Charlie McBride has mentioned. Brady Oltmans going to jump on for a Monday hit with Nebraska, where they sit with the transfer portal and the moving and shaking that's ongoing here as the portal window will close sooner than you think. Also, a chance to get on the road Friday for Nebraska head coaches and assistant coaches to check out some 2024 recruits.
Don't forget, while we're at it, we need to lock in our picks for the national title game tonight, and might need to take a look back at our steak and beer bets. How bad Friday.
Did they go?
Maybe we'll get into them a little bit later in the show. There's some drama here for sure. You won some, I won some. We can let you know who won a little bit later.
At least it was an odd number. Let's start off with Nebraska basketball. And guys, listen, it's kind of nice when you get surprised. And I know Nebraska was supposed to win on Saturday at Minnesota. Too many times for Nebraska basketball fans, instances, opportunities, moments like Saturday have slipped away. If you're a Nebraska basketball fan, it didn't. Derek Walker and company willed a win in overtime, 81-79. In Nebraska right now, a game away from 500. The Illini come to town tomorrow night. PBA is going to be sold out and rocking. A week from Wednesday, we are venturing down to Rosie's downtown Lincoln, just south of the embassy, for a road show as we get you ready for Ohio State. First, Nebraska gets set to clubs with last year's co-Big Ten champs. The Illini have been scuffling a bit, but they are very real and a great opportunity. At least Nebraska's got some momentum, fellas, as they get to return back home, as January's been very unkind. 6 of 9 conference games on the road this month for Nebraska. So a potential knockout shot just from a scheduling aspect. People like this team. People like this team because they're gritty, they're unselfish, they're blue collar, and they found a way to win. They just kind of willed themselves. They're not always pretty, but they find a way to make it happen. And what they did is they showed plenty of poise. They made smart basketball plays. There's about a 3 or 4 possession stretch In the second half, Nebraska came out, hit 7 of 8. They did good from the free throw line as well. And they really were clutch, 8 of 10. Final about 2 minutes between end of regulation and overtime to hit free throws. So the lab work paid off. The extra effort paid off with Nebraska free throw shooting. But Nebraska just did what they needed to do. They won at the free throw line. They won on the in the paint scoring. They won rebounding. And the only thing that you can complain about, and this allowed a 14-4 Minnesota spurt, Nebraska reverted back to just some hurry basketball with some bad passes or decision making or quick shots. There's about a 3 or 4 possession stretch around the 10-20 mark in that second half. That opened the door for Minnesota to chip away and then regain the lead. But Nebraska kind of showed up and showed out with how they finished. So big win for Nebraska. Wasn't a this is how the feel is. If they lose, you lose interest. If they keep winning, you'll hang around and stay interested in them. I think that's where a lot of the fan base is. Even if you like this team, they still need to win to keep your attention. But guys, they won a game that it was a need to win. We hear about must-win games. Saturday was a need to win.
And it was a true road game. I think that's what was the biggest takeaway was from me. It's not that, Minnesota is not a team that's going to be in the top half of the Big Ten this year. They're probably going to be bottom 2 or bottom 3 based on that roster and based on the injuries. That's not a great Minnesota team, and that's where I kind of say, hold the horses. But they got a true road win. They got that monkey off their back. How many times this season have they walked out on an away floor and just not look like themselves? You look at how they play at home, and then you compare it to, say, Kansas State, and I guess that was technically a neutral game, but it wasn't on the home floor, and you go, that just doesn't look like the team that we're used to. Against Michigan State, I know Michigan State had a good shooting night, but it didn't quite look like the Nebraska team that you were accustomed to seeing this year. You finally saw them do it away from home on Saturday. It was a team that played the way that Nebraska has won their basketball games this year. They stuck with their offensive rhythm for the most part. They played with defensive intensity. They didn't let the away crowd, who Minnesota had a pretty good Saturday morning crowd, that got behind the Golden Gophers, and Nebraska didn't let that affect them. They stuck with it. They battled against some momentum swings, and they got a win. And that's what's most important at the end of the day is this Nebraska basketball team, no one was expecting to go compete for the top of the Big Ten, and that's still not going to happen this year. But they're winning games. They're doing it in a fun way, and they have a chance for postseason basketball. Is it NCAA tournament? Probably not. But if they continue playing the way they're playing, I think they're a pretty good shot for making the NIT and getting some sort of postseason basketball, which is it's positive news. It's positive developments, and it's a step in the right direction for Fred and company.
Well, I think you'd take an NIT. I think you're going to keep battling. I was talking to Jack Ebling, our dear friend from Michigan State, legendary writer and broadcaster. His take this year for this Big Ten is he's thinking 16-4 probably wins the league. Well, Purdue's on the mountaintop. You're going to get drilled if you don't bring your A or even A- game night in, night out. Look at Indiana last night. Well, they hit a 3 at the buzzer. Northwestern was up comfortably, and then that thing about slipped away the final 2.5 minutes. Nebraska was able to figure it out. He had 7 points from Walker in overtime. Love Jawan Gary. Love his rebounding. Love his defensive intensity. 7 for 11, 18 points. He had 2 monster tip-ins on follows that were just key. Nebraska went to the well a lot with Walker. 2 of his misses, while they were contested, Gary right there to clean up. I still have a problem with Wiltshire and Tominaga. One of those 2 guys need to be on from here on out. I don't care who it is, all right? But both of them get beat up defensively, and offensively, they just haven't been hitting. I know Tominaga put the Superman cape on against Purdue, so there's a little more recency with him. But even Wilhelm Breidenbach, I love seeing this on Twitter, the serial killer. Right? The serial killer. He is really, I know they didn't play well against Sparty, but he played well. Made some nice plays with some step-through finishes and has hit a couple of threes. And then again, 7 points, guys, off the bench. Connor, you've seen this team quite a bit. You've seen him in person calling a couple of games. And, where's your pulse right now with Nebraska? What were you expecting Saturday? Did you think they'd win, or are you kind of relieved they won?
I was expecting a win. I didn't think it would honestly go into overtime, but the fact that they were able to get a win in that circumstance, as Elijah mentioned, Minnesota had a pretty solid crowd on a Saturday morning for a team that's not very good. But the fact that Nebraska was able to go on the road, get an overtime win in a need-to-win scenario, and I think you have another one of those scenarios here tomorrow night at PBA, because Illinois is coming off of an impressive win after losing their point guard, Sky Clark. They beat Wisconsin by 10 on their home floor, but now they have to come to PBA, where Nebraska so far this year has been pretty good. They're 6-1 at the vault so far this year, so they've definitely upped the level of play in their home stadium. They've played really, really good teams close, such as Purdue in that overtime loss. So I think this is another kind of need-to-win game for Nebraska, because if you get to 500 in the conference this early in the year, keep in mind, Nebraska didn't get 9 wins until the second to last game of the regular season a year ago. So I think the NIT is definitely something that is in sight. This is a big game for Nebraska. If they can get it, it would be huge, just because the Big Ten is so wishy-washy this year, for lack of a better term.
Well, you get to that 9 or 10 spot in conference, you will be on the bubble. It will determine what you can do in Big Ten tournament play for a handful of teams. You'll be looking great 1 minute, Rutgers, case in point, and then you're not. We'll dive into the college football playoff. College football insider Brad Edwards next with Hail Varsity.
Hail Varsity is a must-have. True Husker fans get a monthly magazine that'll make checking the mail fun again. Daily analysis, the breaking news, including the inside scoop on recruiting on HailVarsity.com. And every June, that's right, every June, you'll get the Nebraska Football Yearbook, a season preview completely dedicated to Nebraska football. That's as comprehensive as national previews. Remember, get to HailVarsity.com.
Hello, neighbor. It is Animal for Super C Convenience Stores. They're locally owned, super friendly, and a place for hot snacks and cool drinks. Got that road trip coming up? Gotta get some road food. Soft touch car washes. They've got that. And super deals every day. Special discounts for their loyalty programs. Ask about that at the counter. Each of their 10 locations set up to serve the individual neighborhood. And they've got grocery items, milk, bread, and so much more. Super C, my go-to stop. Make it yours. Super C, where they're always happy to see you. And don't forget the ice.
It's Christy with Good Life Fitness and GoodLifeFit.com. If you've never been to Good Life Fitness before, we're a gym that is for everyone. We believe that fitness changes lives. From classes to personal training, we've got the tools to help you succeed. Your fitness journey can start today. With over 160 classes per week, we found that members have a much higher success rate when they work out with others just like you. Good Life Fitness doesn't have any contracts or initiation fees, so you've got nothing to lose. #1 gym, Best of Lincoln for 6 years in a row. Good Life Fitness, GoodLifeFit.com.
Is this how you feel day after day? Like you've been hit by a truck? Limitless can fix that. Don't spend another day feeling like Limitless Mail has solutions to eliminate sleepless nights, belly fat, lack of energy, muscle loss, lack of focus. Limitless Mail providers are experts in hormone replacement, peptide therapy, and ED. Get ready to feel great again. Schedule a free consult at limitlessmail.com. Insurance accepted.
With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One and a member FDIC.
I wanted to know why some people who get COVID-19 get it so bad. I found out it may be because they have a high risk factor, such as heart disease, diabetes, being overweight, smoking, and asthma. Even if symptoms feel mild, these factors can increase your risk of COVID-19 turning severe. So if you're at high risk and test positive, there are things you can do, like asking your healthcare provider if an authorized oral treatment is right for you. Learn about an option at treatcovid19.com. This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity, presented by Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. We welcome in college football insider Brad Edwards. Can watch us as we are on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, also on Twitter, ESPN Lincoln, Facebook, and Twitter, and the Hail Varsity Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio, at J. Brad Edwards on Twitter. Brad, it's like you're sitting across the table from me here, circa 2014, Nebraska, Miami. How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. That's been that long since I saw you, I guess, in person. So, yeah.
Lucky for you.
Yeah.
Lucky for
you.
You.
Is that lucky for me? Yeah. Well, I get maybe. I don't know. I tell you what, I wish I had gotten to see you more recently, because I would have liked to have been to a couple of College World Series, but that's another story.
No, absolutely. We'll just have to figure you out to get you down to, well, whatever it's called now, but downtown Omaha, Chuck, I guess is what I'll call it.
Beers are on us.
Yeah, we're going to put a collection plate and start passing it around to our listeners for the good student sections of Georgia and TCU tonight for SoFi Stadium. I was complaining about the fact it's $19, and I love Modelo beer, as you can see, but it's $19 for a tall boy Modelo. And I guess that's just price of doing business at the college football playoff.
And there's no tailgating apparently. So
right.
it's not like you can get your fill and then go in. It's like, if you want anything, you got to pay their price. So hopefully the game is worth it, because I don't think a whole lot of the rest of the experience will be.
Exactly. We're just kind of shaking our head. LA's fun. It's cool. It's just a weird setup with the middle of rush hour, and oh yeah, here's a national championship game going on, La La Land time. Let's dive in, Brad, and really put in perspective, as you've watched and covered college football, what TCU's done this year. The odds are one thing, but it's quite another for them to have a 6-1 mark and come from behind victories. They're a talented football team, but they probably even surprised themselves a bit with just coming down to the wire and winning really tight, high-scoring ball games.
Yeah, obviously there was a very small margin for error for them to get to this point, but they've defied the odds and they've managed to do it. Now, at the same time, you have to ask the question, who's the best team they've beaten to get here? The answer is Michigan, in a game in which they won by 6, and they needed 2 interception returns for touchdown and a fumble recovery from Michigan at the 1-yard line going in. All of that they needed in order to make that happen. And now you're talking about going up another notch in competition against Georgia. So is this even realistic to think TCU can win this game? I don't think so. It's a great story. I know there are fans all over the country who really want to see, at the very least, they want to see TCU take this deep into the fourth quarter, if not win it, because they want to believe that a team like a TCU with that recruiting profile has a chance in today's college football. It has been a long time since a team that has recruited at not a top 20 level has come this close to winning a national championship. I don't think they can do it, but if they can, it gives a lot of people hope.
Brad, do you think there's going to be more strain on TCU's offense or their defense? Because it's been talked about all year long, for a couple of years now, even how good Georgia's defense is. But Georgia's offense might be flying a little bit under the radar this year, but they've been pretty high flying as well. And it's going to be tough for both sides of the ball. But when you look at that Georgia defense, I said a couple weeks ago, I thought Ohio State might be the only team in the country that could really move the ball on them. And that Ohio State did, but now it's going to be TCU's task to try and do that. So which side of the ball do you think is going to have to work harder to find success against Georgia?
Yeah, I think the TCU defense is going to have a bigger challenge, not only because Georgia's passing game is a lot better than people give it credit for. And you know, some of that is because they've got a tight end who no one can match up with. They also have, I don't know how many, 8 receivers who are, 4 or 5 stars, and not a single one of them is a household name. But there's not a weak link there. And so, good luck matching up with those guys as well. I mean, your best hope is that you can stop Georgia from running the ball, because, I mean, to me, that's the biggest concern. I think that's where the mismatch is in this game. It's not at the skill. TCU's got plenty of athletes. maybe not quite at Georgia's level, but TCU's better than most in the nation when it comes to athleticism. It's in the trenches where I think Georgia really has the edge. And as much as I think that same advantage goes to Georgia when they're on defense, teams that can throw the ball well can throw on Georgia. And they have the last two games. I mean, not only what Ohio State did, but go back to the SEC championship. And while the score wasn't close, LSU's two quarterbacks combined to throw for more than 500 yards in that game. And so you can throw on Georgia if you give your quarterback time. And so I think there is a formula for TCU to have success on offense. I think it's a lot more of a challenge for TCU's defense to be able to come up with some stops.
Brad Edwards is with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Brad, I know you can't really argue the size and physicality of Georgia, but in TCU's defense, they were up multiple scores against Michigan for a while in that game, and their defense and offensive line really impressed me in that game. And yes, Michigan is definitely the best team that TCU has played. Is it wrong of me to think that TCU may have a chance tonight?
I don't think it's ever wrong to think a team has a chance when you get to this level. I just think TCU's chance depends on Georgia playing a poor game. Georgia's going to have to make mistakes they don't typically make. They're going to need to, whether it's some really big turnovers, and I don't mean just, fumbling a snap and TCU recovers, but something that they can actually get a good return off of, or something Georgia does inside of its own 20 to set up TCU. They have to be, momentum swinging turnovers, big special teams plays. Those are the types of things, maybe even a tipped ball, like, just a ball that should have been picked off goes through the hands of the DB into the hands of a receiver. Some sort of break, more than one, is good like that. It's going to have to go TCU's way, I think, to level the playing field, because the talent edge is heavily in Georgia's favor. I don't think this Georgia team is as good as last year's, but they're close enough that this is just really, really a tall order for TCU.
Brad Edwards with us, college football insider, and can catch his work as well with BVM Sports. Brad, you did a column for BVM, and you highlighted the SEC dominance. Touch on a little bit of the content in the story, but it's really been quite a 2-decade run by the SEC.
Yeah, look, going up back to 2 years ago, if someone from the South was running their mouth about SEC, like most people in other parts of the country would have said, look, it's not the SEC, it's Alabama. Well, so if you're one of those people, what do you say after tonight when Georgia wins 2 in a row? Do you say it's not the SEC, it's Georgia, or it's just Georgia and Alabama? Because the truth is, if you go back 20 years, it's not just Georgia or Alabama or both. There are 5 different SEC teams that have won at least one national title in the last 20 years, and all 5 of them have played in multiple national championship games. And people forget about, maybe not as much LSU because they won it just, 3 years ago. But Florida with Urban Meyer, that was within the last 20 years. Auburn, 2010 and 2013 was in a couple of national championship games. So there are other SEC teams that have done it. And look, if we want to go back and just, a logical starting point would be the beginning of the BCS/playoff era, which was 1998. If you go back then, that's 25 years. Then you have to add Tennessee, which had an undefeated season, winning the first BCS title. So, the SEC has dominated in a way that no other conference ever has. And it's really a tough comparison to make, because there used to be so many independent teams that were really good in college football. And so the landscape has changed. It's hard to make the comparison, but we haven't seen anything like this before. And just for perspective, over the same span of time, the Big Ten has had a number of good teams, but only one of them has won a national championship, and that's Ohio State. And so, and by the way, if you go to the rest of the conferences, there's not a single other conference that's had more than 2 teams win a national title over that span, where the SEC's had 6 different ones do it.
It's deep end of the pool. It's pretty impressive. Is there a comp for you in college football for this TCU team? I look at kind of Georgia Tech, 1990, came out of nowhere, and wow, they split a title. Oklahoma in 2000 came out of nowhere, and then those are the 2, and then also
How about UCF with Scott Frost? I know they came from G5, so it's a little different, but
well, they were a Cotton Bowl team 2 years prior. So is there Arizona State 96, Brad? I mean, anybody kind of remind you of this TCU team?
Maybe now I will say I'm on record saying I think this is the biggest mismatch in a national championship game since Alabama Notre Dame 10 years ago. Okay, but I don't think this TCU team is anything like that Notre Dame team. So they're just a different style of team. They have better athletes than that Notre Dame team did. Maybe not as good in the trenches, but different type of team. If I'm looking at someone that is kind of come from well off the radar to be in this spot, the most recent one might even be that Cam Newton Auburn team. Now, it's a different type of team in that it was totally carried by two guys, one on offense and one on defense. That Auburn team was. So maybe it's not the greatest comparison, but if I want to go back and find the last time that a team, coming off a very mediocre season, made an unexpected run like this to get to this stage, it would probably be that Auburn team in 2010.
It's a good one.
Brad, we're up against a hard break. Can you hang out and we'll do a couple minutes
sure.
on the other side? All right. Brad Edwards with us, and check his workout with BVM Sports, Hail Varsity Radio.
Yeah, I want to get Brad's take on the looming 12-team playoff. So I know Brad's still sitting backstage waiting. Maybe get your gears turning on that one. What it means for the SEC, what it means for the rest of college football, Brad. I'm sure I'll have a good answer on that one.
We'll also get his take on Matt Rule, as well as he has been hitting the ground running from a recruiting standpoint. And I know a lot of eyes are on the 3-3-5 alignment that Georgia runs, the TCU runs. We'll spend some time with Charlie McBride, legendary Nebraska defensive coordinator. He'll kick off hour 2 with us, another Monday with Charlie. Reminder to get buckled up. And when you do so, buckling up saves lives. Using your seatbelt does save lives, prevents injuries. And if properly worn, it can save you. Buckle up, a message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Can send emails in, Chris at hailvarsity.com. Brennan chimes in when it comes to some TCU crossover. O'Shawn Mathis, a former Horned Frog. Omar Manning, a Horned Frog. Of course, the pride of Council Bluffs. Max Dugan, an hour away. More with Brad Edwards next.
Cold symptoms keep you up. Try Vicks NyQuil Severe for max strength night relief. Just one dose of Vicks NyQuil Severe starts to relieve 9 of your worst cold and flu symptoms to help take you from 9 to none. Get some rest and feel better with Vicks NyQuil Severe. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, sore throat, stuffy nose, fever, best sleep with a cold. Medicine. Use as directed.
Research shows listeners prefer a personalized experience. So to help you remember, Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance. We personalized this ad for Amber, who really misses boy bands from the 90s.
Hey girl, I'm the cute one, here to tell you how Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
I'm the heartthrob. The only thing I love more than you is saving. And I'm the other boy in the band everyone forgot about.
Just happy to be here. Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-687-5192. That's 800-687-5192. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-687-5192.
Bonus days are back for pros at Lowe's. You earn points and save when you buy the top pro brands you trust, like right now, you can save $100 on the powerful 8 1/4-inch carbide tip portable table saw. Was $3.99, now just $2.99. Join today and shop Bone Days, only at Lowe's. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid through 1/20, subject to change while supplies last. Visit Lowes.com/MVPs bonus points for details.
Meet Joe A,
Hi.
Joe B,
Hello.
and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with AutoSave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect, support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with it's Hail Varsity, presented by Currency. Quick shout out to Generation Red for watching us in his living room, streaming the show on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. College football insider Brad Edwards with us, talk national championship game, TCU and Georgia. Numbers to get in at 466-3776, or can find us on Twitter at HVarsity Radio. So 12-team playoff soon down the road. Brad and Elijah, you're anxious to see what that means here moving forward.
Well, we were just talking last segment about the decade of dominance that's been even greater than that, maybe 2 decades of dominance from the SEC. And I want to get Brad's take on not only what a 12-team playoff means for that dominance of the SEC, but what it also means for, conferences like the Big Ten and schools like Nebraska, and just what that move is going to do for college football. Are you excited for the move, Brad, or are you fearing the move a little bit, how it could change college football?
I don't know that I'm fearing it. I don't know that it's going to be as big of a deal as some of the other moves that we've seen recently, like the immediate eligibility for transfers, the NIL, like things like that. I think are going to be more significant as far as the way they change the sport. There are 2 ways to look at this. I mean, one is that the 12-team playoff isn't necessary because it's not going to change who wins it. Hopefully it'll get us more exciting games, because this year aside, the playoff games mostly haven't been all that competitive. And we'd only had really 2 good semifinal games prior to this season. We've had a few good championship games, but not as many as you would think when you're talking about the top 4 teams in the nation going head to head 3 times each year. So hopefully that will improve. But outside of that, I think that the big difference is that it's going to change the way that a lot of seasons are perceived, where, there would be teams that previously, didn't get into a 4-team playoff, that they might get into a 12-team playoff and win their first game and then lose their second game, where the net result is the same, which is that you don't make it to the semifinal. But I think for the teams that can say at the end of the season that they won a playoff game, it's going to feel like a more successful season. I think it's a lot like in basketball, where a team makes it to the Sweet 16. They not only got into the tournament, but they won a couple of games. And sure, they didn't come close to winning the national title when all was said and done. But to get to that second weekend, it feels like a good season, depending on who you are, right? And so, I think a team like a Utah, for example, making it to the Rose Bowl is great. But if they won a playoff game and then lost the next one, it almost feels to me like more of an accomplishment. So I think that's the type of thing. And Nebraska, where the program currently is, that's something that you can shoot for. It's just to get into the playoff. And if you can win one game, it feels a heck of a lot better than, let's just say you went to the Citrus Bowl and won that. I mean, it's just a different feel. So I think that's where the big difference is. Now, to your other question, I've already given you a really long answer before I get to part 2. How is it going to impact the SEC? I think, if anything, what we're ultimately going to see from the playoff, I mean, people are going to focus on, okay, now the Pac-12 is going to get in every year, a group of 5 champions going to get in every year. The biggest thing is that more often than not, I think we're going to have 2 SEC teams in the semifinals, and people have hated that when it's happened in the 4-team playoff. Both times it's happened so far, those teams ended up playing each other for the national championship. It was Alabama and Georgia both times. And I think if you put the 3 best teams from the SEC in a 12-team format every single year, I'm not saying every time 2 of them are going to get to the last 4, but a lot more often than 2 in 9 years, which is what's happened in this 4-team playoff. So at the end of the day, I don't think it hurts one bit the chance of the SEC winning the national championship. And if anything, I think we'll get more, unless a team like an Ohio State gets in the way, or a Clemson from what they were just a few years ago, barring someone like that rising up and putting up a serious roadblock, I think we're going to have more championship games played between SEC teams.
Brad, with the new 12-team playoff, do you think, because this is my thought process on it, do you think that the regular season, even though teams could lose 1 or 2 games, those losses won't be as consequential if they want to make the playoff? Do you think that's going to enhance people paying attention to the regular season more, or do you think not much is going to change in that regard?
I think you can look at both sides of it. I think with the very best teams, the end of the regular season becomes less meaningful. And this is a great example. I mean, if we all assume that the conferences are going to go the way of no more divisions and just the 2 best teams are going to play each other in the conference championship game, which seems to be where it's going to be headed across the board. If that had been in place this year, you would have gone into the Michigan-Ohio State game knowing that they were going to play again in the conference championship game the following weekend. Now, I mean, you talk about taking the air out of a huge game between 2 undefeated major rivals. I mean, sure, it would still mean something, but I mean, it's at that point, it's not even for a division title. I mean, the game that really matters is the next week on a neutral field. And that would be really disappointing to see that play. It makes you wonder, like, if that does take place, would they think about moving a game like Ohio State, Michigan to the middle of the season as opposed to the end, which just seems crazy. But when you look at the alternative and what could happen if you don't do that, then maybe so. Now, on the other hand, the flip side is you're going to get, because you're getting conference champions in automatically, that means every division title is significant. And so, I mean, let's close to home here, let's just talk about Big Ten West. Every game in the last 3 weeks of November that's impacting the Big Ten West race matters, because whoever wins that division is 1 win away from being in the college football playoff. And so there will be way more teams playing significant games in the last few weeks of the regular season. I think that'll be great for college football. Unfortunately, I think some of the huge late season games won't mean as much as they had previously.
Brad, will end with some Nebraska thoughts, and Matt Rule close to rounding out his staff officially. He's gone really young comparatively, when kind of joked last week about being the old guy in the room. Hired Mr. White, as we call him here, from Syracuse, and his 3-3-5, and that's been an impressive defense wherever he's been. So there's a lot of buzz, not only with the hires, but also where he took Nebraska's recruiting class that was hovering around 40 to 45, and they finished around number 25 when you look at some different services. So he was hitting the ground running, and then we all kind of thought bubble, what can year one be? We know what they were like at his previous 2 stops versus the portal and what he's going to inherit. And the schedule's not great, but not terrible. It's not like it was in 2019 or 2020. And you open up with Fleck in Minnesota, then you go see Deion in Boulder, and then you get into some more Big Ten play. But overall, what do you project here way too early with Nebraska as far as what a year one can be?
I mean, you're in the division that no one can predict. And if you're most of those teams, that's a good thing. But we saw what the Big Ten West was this past season, or I guess this current season. I'm already putting we got one more game before it's the past season. Okay. But this season, and there's no reason to believe that things are going to be vastly different. I think Nebraska and Wisconsin both made really good head coaching hires. But I think the division is up for grabs. I mean, long-term, if anyone can solidify themselves as a consistent top 20 recruiter and have a good quarterback on top of that, or as part of it, I think that becomes the team that can control the division for a few years. But I don't see that being the case for anybody this season. So yeah, I mean, it's wide open, and to some extent, programs with new coaches are a little bit unpredictable because it's a new scheme. You don't have the book on them the way that you would someone like PJ Fleck, who's been in the conference for a while. So maybe there is a little bit of an edge for Nebraska. And I know we were having this conversation just a few years ago as a new coach came in and like, hey, everything. There was no reason to believe that one wasn't going to work out. So I'm kind of hesitant to talk too big on this one or be too optimistic. But I don't know. I mean, the division's in a different place. Wisconsin is not what Wisconsin was. So I just think it's a lot more wide open.
Brad, enjoy the ball game tonight. Thanks for your time today. I always love to get caught up with you.
All right. Great talking to you guys. And hopefully we'll get a little bit of competition tonight. We'll see.
It'll be good.
Anyone who has ever needed self-storage knows what hassle it can be. You have to rent or borrow a truck and then find someone to help you move your stuff. And let's face it, moving furniture and heavy items without damaging them isn't easy. Renting the unit is worse. The hidden fees and admin costs are scarier than the dingy facilities you're leaving your stuff in. Why not use Closet Box instead? Closet Box is self-storage without leaving home. They'll pick up your belongings, store them securely, and bring any item back when you need it. The best part? Unlike traditional self-storage, you only pay for what you store. No paying for unused storage space. Closet Box's background check storage movers are licensed, bonded, and insured and will take care of all of the heavy lifting. Closet Box's local storage centers are temperature controlled and monitored 24/7. Closet Box has an A+ rating from the BBB. Call 877-233-5696 now for the season's best rates. Get $50 off first month storage using code RADIO50. That's 877-233-5696. 877-233-5696. Anyone who has ever needed self-storage knows what a hassle it can be. You have to rent or borrow a truck and then find someone to help you move your stuff. And let's face it, moving furniture and heavy items without damaging them isn't easy. Renting the unit is worse. The hidden fees and admin costs are scarier than the dingy facilities you're leaving your stuff in. Why not use Closet Box instead? Closet Box is self-storage without leaving home. They'll pick up your belongings, store them securely, and bring any item back when you need it. The best part? Unlike traditional self-storage, you only pay for what you store. No paying for unused storage space. Closet Box's background check storage movers are licensed, bonded, and insured and will take care of all of the heavy lifting. Closet Box's local storage centers are temperature controlled and monitored 24/7. Closet Box has an A+ rating from the BBB. Call 877-233-5696 now for the season's best rates. Get $50 off first month storage using code RADIO50. That's 877-233-5696. 877-233-5696.
I'm weatherology meteorologist Ray Miller with your Capital City forecast. Clear tonight, a low of 27 degrees. Tuesday, sunny with a high around 51. Wednesday, partly sunny, high temperature of 42 degrees. That's the forecast on Lincoln's ESPN. Right now, it's 51.
Register to win a brand new Chevy Silverado 1500. Now at Menards. See store for details. Save big money at Menards.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, big thanks to Brad Edwards and his insight. Good thoughts on the playoff setup as well. Not only tonight, we'll get into that underdog role and mentality with Mr. Blackshirt Charlie McBride. 10 minutes from now, we'll talk with Uncle Charlie. Remember some of those title runs with Nebraska. Just how difficult it is to repeat because Georgia's on the verge of doing something that only Bama and Nebraska and Notre Dame and Oklahoma have done. Not split titles, but back-to-back crowned championships.
Before we go back to football, I do want to also give a thank you out to the affiliates for putting up with us totally blowing by a hard break there last segment.
Yeah, we are going to get beaten severely here tomorrow morning, but that's
why I'm getting ahead of it right now. I'm looking at the affiliates and saying thank you. We're working on it. We're getting it fixed. We apologize. Brad's just too good.
He's too good, and me.
I mean, what are we going to do? Cut off Brad Edwards?
No,
we are.
I need to shorten my question about 80 minutes. I'll work on that. That's a me thing for 2023.
New
Chris
year,
Schmidt,
new you.
Yeah, right. Schmidt, we're going to work on the questions you ask being 15 seconds, not 50 minutes. It's Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark, Chris Schmidt. Find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel, and for Connor Clark. Take this down at C_Clark_. 27.
Just have your notepads ready, please.
I think this can be close tonight.
Ooh.
I
Close
agree.
TCU covers.
Well, and the spread's at 13.5 right now.
12.5. It's dropped the point.
It's dropped to 12.5. I was going to say, if it's at 13.5, I'd recommend buying that point up and going 14.5. I'm no Danny Burke, but that seems like simple math to me.
2 touchdowns and call her good, but
12.5, that makes things tough. That makes me want to err on the side of Georgia. But if you know anything about late moving lines, I've brought this up a lot on this show. Statistically proven that if you bet a late moving line before it moves, so if you bet TCU 13.5 and it moves to 12.5, statistically you have a higher than average chance of that bet hitting. It's not necessarily means it's going to happen, but I think it's somewhere closer to 70%. If you get it before the line changes, you do in fact hit that bet. So maybe we're looking at TCU covering a 13.5 point line tonight.
That'd be all right. And Brad hit on, and we'll have that podcast up not only for you to watch on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, but also can get the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with Hail Varsity Radio, individualized segments or the full show available both ways for you. But he touched on the fact Georgia can be thrown on, okay? And the thing that's unique about Max Duggan, when you look at his skill set, how he can extend plays, he's been a lot of fun to watch do that here this year in the Big 12, and then also with what he was able to do against Michigan. TCU is great, absolutely great at yards after the catch. They turn a 5-yard gain into a 15-yard gain. Now, some of that was screw-ups by Michigan when you think about the crossing route when he was pressured right, the 3rd and long. But TCU's been excellent at making teams, even a team like Michigan, they were 3 of 15 on 3rd down. But Dugan is killer with the deep ball. All right. The average deep ball completion is around 35 to 38%, 20 yards or more downfield. Dugan hits at a 48% rate.
You know what they say, ladies love the long ball.
Chicks dig the
Whatever,
long ball. Hour 2 on the way with Charlie McBride.
Today on Hey Culligan, smooth skin and soft hair comes from where? Here's Mike.
Hey Culligan, I've tried every conditioner, lotion, and body wash known to man, and my skin still feels like sandpaper.
It could be your water, Mike.
Oh, that's hard.
More like hard water. Are you interested in smart, high-efficiency water softeners from Culligan Water?
Huh?
Want baby smooth skin and soft, luxurious hair?
Yeah, can you hurry? I have a date tonight.
We're already on the way, Mike. Let us help you out with the free in-home water test from a local Culligan water expert at Culligan.com.
Make a New Year's resolution that's easy to keep. Help protect your identity and finances with LifeLock Identity Theft Protection. LifeLock detects identity threats you may miss on your own. And if you become a victim, LifeLock will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses. But LifeLock by Norton makes it easy to help protect yourself. Join now and save up to 25% off your first year. Go to LifeLock.com. Use promo code NEWS.
Less calories and fat, and oh so delicious. It's what every light bread wants to be. Leave it to the bakers of Village Hearth to have the perfect recipes that pack goodness and flavor into every package while still keeping it trim. With Village Hearth light bread and buns, you can lighten up on the calories and fat without losing out on the great taste. There's simply more to savor and nothing to sacrifice. With our light wheat, light 12 grain, and light Italian bread and buns, there's a light, tasty favorite for everyone in the family. Village Hearth, baking our best for you.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, call 988 for free, confidential, and compassionate support. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline has a new number, 988. There is hope for 24/7 support. Just call, text, or chat 988.
Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
From the John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Studios, this is KLMS Lincoln, the capital city's Husker Authority.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Bill safety Damar Hamlin's been released from the University of Cincinnati Medical Center and transferred to a hospital in Buffalo as he resumes his recovery. Another sign of the remarkable progress he's made 1 week after going into cardiac arrest during a game. The Cardinals fired coach Cliff Kingsbury 10 months after signing him to an extension through the 2027 season. Arizona had just one playoff appearance in his 4 seasons. In addition, GM Steve Kimes decided to step away from his position to focus on his health. The focal point for Arizona's next coach and GM, quarterback Kyler Murray, explains ESPN's Louis Riddick.
What do we really need to do as far as building a relationship with him, understanding his strengths and weaknesses, both as a player and as a person? How do we maximize those strengths? How do we get the most out of him individually? How do we get the most out of him in a collective sense as far as him being a leader? How do we help grow into a leader?
Louis Riddick on Fitz and Harry. The college football season all comes down to this. Georgia, TCU in the national championship game tonight. ESPN radio coverage, bottom of the hour, 7:30 Eastern, ESPN TV, and other ESPN platforms.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. At Progressive, they're making things even easier to help you bundle your home and car insurance together so you can save on both. Learn more at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE.
If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. That's true when your business is growing fast, and even more true when there's a lot of uncertainty. Inflation is running rampant, supply chains are clogged, and the labor market is tight. What does that mean for margins? But not every business is in the dark. Over 30,000 businesses know their numbers because they use NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud financial system. NetSuite gives you visibility and control of your financials, planning, budgeting, and of course inventory, so you can manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need, all in one place. In 2023, profit is the new growth. NetSuite helps you identify rising costs, automate your manual business process, and see where to save money. Know your numbers, know your business, and get to know how NetSuite can be the source of truth for your entire company. Right now, NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind flexible financing program. Head to netsuite.com/radar right now. netsuite.com/radar. netsuite.com/radar.
The Dominique Foxworth Show.
I believe that most quarterbacks and probably more players are failed than the players themselves not being good. It's the coaches in the situation failing them. I was just thinking that we should start the Shanahan test or the Andy Reid test. When we start talking about players stink or players are bust, especially offensive players, just ask yourself, what would he look like in San Francisco or in Kansas City?
Check out the Dominique Foxworth Show anywhere you get your podcast.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Starting trouble. No one likes that. We'll get you set up for some stronger starts. You might just need a fresh charge. We'll take care of that free of charge. But if it is time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that'll fit your needs, starting at just $79.99. You can learn more about our battery selection at AutoZone.com. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2021.
Shop limited time deals at the Truckload event at Lowe's, happening now. Save big on your favorites across the store. During this event, get up to 50% off select tools and accessories. Plus, find the perfect floor tile for your home for less. Get up to 50% off select styles while you can. Head to your local Lowe's store or visit Lowe's.com to shop the Truckload event today. Valid 12/29 to 1/25 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for deals. Discount taken at time of purchase.
I studied Spanish in college and never got fluent, but then I tried Babbel.
Want the most effective way to learn another language? In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel's bite-sized lessons will have you learning another language in as little as 3 weeks.
Babbel gets you speaking quickly about things you actually talk about in the real world.
University studies have shown that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a semester of college Spanish. If you want to learn a new language, there's no better way than Babbel. Go to Babbel.com to try Babbel for free. That's Babbel.com.
Shoo-wee, Joe, that stinks.
Girl, that ain't me. That's January. And January stinks because it's cold, boring, and I can't afford a slow start. So to speed things up, I have to do something absolutely crazy, like turning the entire month at Capital City Automax into Drive for 5.
What's Drive for 5?
Drive away today for just $5 down or get up to $5,000 more than appraised value for your trade. January stinks, so help me deodorize with Drive for 5. Does your credit stink? Don't worry. My one and only for the people credit approval process works because I understand bad things happen to good people, and that stinks. Don't keep driving a car or truck you hate.
That stinks.
Trade with me today and get up to $5,000 more than it's worth. Not enough for down payment?
That stinks.
So drive away today in a nicer, newer car for as low as $5 down. But hurry, January stinks only until the end of the month. That's when I wipe this deal clean. I'm Joe Clemens, and I'm your dealer for the people. Come see us at Capital City Automax in Lincoln or online at approvedbyjoe.com. Approvedbyjoe.com. www.approvedbyjoe.com.
Vehicle purchase price, actual trade allowance, all terms subject to approval, some minimum requirements.
Need to update your furniture? Menards has the furniture you need in stock. Plus, you get a free rug. That's right. Buy any upholstered living room furniture at $299 or more and get a free 5x7 area rug. That's $149.99 in savings. Need a new chair? How about a sectional, a new recliner, or love seat? Buy one today, get a free rug. Hurry up. Get to Menards before they're gone. In-store only while supplies last.
Save big money at Menards.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back with you, it's hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. We welcome him back in for another year, 2023, and we get it kicked off the right way with Charlie McBride, Mr. Blackshirt, a Monday with Charlie, as it is National Championship Monday. Coach, how we doing? Happy New Year. I know I'm a little late in saying that, but want to wish it to you anyway. How we doing?
Good. Happy New Year to you too, and all of our fans out there. I think it's going to be a good year.
I think so too, and we'll get to the national title game in a moment. But I want to ask you about the underdog role and the underdog role Nebraska had against Florida State. When we look at point spreads. This point spread right now is 12.5 points. TCU is underdog. You guys went into that Florida State game 17.5 point underdogs.
Listen, I'll tell you what. When you get into college football, especially, anybody can beat anybody. It turns into a little bit of a mental game, and it goes back to the same thing I've always talked about: is that if Georgia thinks they're going to roll their head on the field, they're probably going to get beat. And so, but if they come out and play like they can, then that's going to be a tough game for TCU, I think. But TCU, you kind of prepare. You don't want to prepare your players to just say, well, we're the underdog, we got nothing to lose. Yeah, you got something to lose. That's the game, but the thing that's important there is I think that the mental part of it, to be able to relax and play a little bit in the game, kind of helps sometimes, rather than be on edge and and really, a lot of times you've seen a whole quarter go by where the team that's when it's an even game, they both look like they're really tight and it looks awful. And then they relax and play. So that's kind of what's going to happen probably with TCU. They haven't been in one of these games, and a lot of the players from Georgia have been, but they have the ability to say, hey, we're the underdog. We got nothing to lose, if you want to put it that way. Then they'll fight it that way.
Mindset is so important. Is that something you worked on with your kids, thinking about some of those national championship moments? Did you coach teams that played tight, or did you coach teams that were able to play loose?
Well, you just coach them to play the best they can play. I mean, you don't do. I've never heard any coach or anybody say, hey, we have nothing to lose, let her fly. Maybe individual coaches to their players and their position have said that, But in general, that's not usually the way, you want to run the whole team. The whole team, you have to say, for example, as a head coach, you have to prepare everybody to play the best they can play. I think one of the things is that, I've heard coaches say time and time again that they don't have to win this game, but what they do have to do is play as hard as they can on every play and focus and do those kind of things, and the score will take care of itself.
Coach, in a game like this, with TCU being such a significant underdog, do you believe in the underdog, going to the bag of tricks a little bit, opening up the playbook and finding some plays deeper in the playbook to catch the defense or even the offense off guard? Do you think you should be playing the fundamental football year that's gotten you there? What's your take on that? Because there's two sides of the coin.
Well, I think the coaches that are the underdogs have a little more leeway to say, hey, let's put a few trick plays in and, see if we can throw them off that way. I think the team that's not the underdog is going to, play it pretty straight.
Charlie McBride with us here on Hail Varsity Radio on Monday with Charlie. Coach, I want to go to Tony White, Nebraska's defensive coordinator. We had a chance to meet with him last Friday, and he was in front of the podium and was very adamant about wanting to do the Nebraska defense proud, wanting to do the Blackshirt tradition proud. So there are people he's going to reach out to, likely you, if he hasn't already. But what's your reaction, take on Coach White and this versatility that he's going to bring defensively wise, be it a 3-3-5 or a 4-down look or whatever? It sounds like he's going to adapt to the personnel that he has and wants to go get.
Right. Well, when you say you're going to adapt to the personnel, then that defense, I've kind of watched a little bit, and some of these teams are playing it. You might see a little bit of it out of TCU tonight, but you can go to a 4-man front very easily, and then you have to switch personnel to go, to more of a 5-man front, if you want to just call it that, with 2 outside backers, on the line of scrimmage. You could, but it's easier to go to your 4-man fronts out of that defense, I think, and teach it. I think the best thing you can do is what all coaches want to do is get their players so confident at the position that they're playing that no matter what it is, they know how to adjust to it. And then you fit everything you want to do into it, whether it's checks to a certain front against a certain formations or that kind of thing. You do that as you go through the week.
Coach Charlie McBride is with us on Hail Varsity Radio. And Coach, TCU runs the 3-3-5 as well. We saw that against Michigan. What should Husker fans look out for in tonight's game about what to maybe expect or see from Nebraska in the upcoming season that maybe mirrors TCU's defensive style?
Well, that defense, when you look at it, you have a lot of options with pressure compared to where they line up. So that it may be that, I always thought that, then the old saying, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. But, you probably, if you're in the underdog role, you might have a little more to it. But I think that they'll probably have a few wrinkles in that they know about, and we'll never see them, defensively. We'll never realize that that's something new. Because, it just stunts look like stunts, and they, but to run them, that change up. And I think the biggest thing is when you have a scheme that you don't, you try more to change the front with different calls, but you don't mess with the secondary too much, except maybe to disguise your coverage.
Charlie McBride is with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. Try to switch gears here a little bit and maybe talk to Georgia's side of things just a little bit more. I want to get your take on, being a team that's been there and done that before. Georgia obviously took it home the national title last season. They have guys in the roster, guys that are going to be playing tonight that played in that game last year. As for TCU, this is a new experience for them. The only championship game most of these guys have played in. They lost to Kansas State. That'll be in the Big 12 championship game a little over a month ago. And I want to get your take on how much that's going to factor in tonight. The fact that Georgia has guys in their starting lineup that played pretty significantly in that national championship game last year.
Yeah, but they have guys that haven't. Those are the guys that the problem a little bit is they don't, the guys that have played probably will be able to relax a little quicker or get adjusted a little quicker to the game than those that haven't. And of course, TCU has not been there. And, if they're really pressing hard, it makes it, hard for you to really function like you really can. Mm-hmm. And it takes a little bit of time. So if that's the case, then you want to try to hold them off the best you can, so that you can, kind of regroup yourself mentally and really, get to playing hard. And I think a lot of it goes to the quarterback sometimes in both cases in games like this. Sometimes they're a little bit more afraid to pull the trigger a little bit on some of the early, until they really get relaxed and get into the game.
Is there something to, getting that first hit of the game as a quarterback or as that guy on the football field? You take that one big shot and then you're finally locked back into the game. Is there something to that?
Get the what now?
The first big hit of the game, taking a hit, laying a hit. You had that one. I think it's what boxers say. Right? Boxers need to get punched in the face once before they can settle in. Is there something to that in football?
Well, I think you talk about being physical, the most physical team, no matter, on both sides of the ball. I mean, that's just part of preparation. And I think the biggest thing is no stupid penalties. No, on the sidelines, doing anything late and causing your team to get a 15-yard penalty or something like that. Penalties are turnovers and penalties will really hurt you in a game like this. Especially if it gets close, it's really tough. And so the players have to really control themselves and, be on top of it. And, in a lot of cases, you got some guys that are very high strung and, you have to kind of talk to them a little more than others during the week or during that preparation time. But they all understand when this kind of comes off and you're playing for a national championship, most guys will really be careful.
Charlie McBride with us on Monday with Charlie. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, just speak to the difficulty and the honor, really, of being able to win back-to-back championships. Georgia's trying to do it. Your Nebraska team's one of just a handful that have done it.
Well, that's the thing. That's the exact thing that you really have to protect against. You have to be prepared for that game as well as you did the first one. I mean, you can't let it slip. And I think you do that through practice. I think a lot of times coaches, if they get to a point where they're, we played this before, we're going to ease up a little bit, maybe in your total preparation and, let them do a few more things than that. Sometimes when you do that, they get the idea that you think it's a little easier than it is. It's not an easy game. And, you have to be prepared for everything. I mean, it's really crazy, but the tricks and those things, a lot of times when you go back and look at some of the stuff they've done through the years, maybe the last couple of years or so, if you have the film to do it, to see what they do. And the important thing is one of the things we always used to do is try to find out who maybe is playing split end that was a quarterback in high school. Mm-hmm. And those guys you got to be careful with those guys on reverses and stuff, because if they can throw the ball, they'll be the guy that they use. and know what your holders are doing. Know where they came from. Were they a quarterback in high school, or are they for throwing the ball or ever catching it? And so you have to really check the personnel part of it, out really close for everybody, the punters, anybody, as you saw, I think the other night I saw in a pro game, I saw that in the second half, and they didn't really need to, but they went, maybe it was a college game, went to onside kick.
Mm-hmm.
And, and it even came off, I think, in the middle of a quarter, so those kind of things can happen if you're susceptible to anything. With the time they have to prepare for a game, you can look at that kind of stuff pretty easy.
So are you doing chicken wings tonight, or what's on the menu for the national title game?
Any $19 beers?
Yeah, $19 for a beer in Los Angeles for this ball game.
How much?
19.
Oh, that's good. There won't be many people getting popped over that.
Not with that alone.
I'll tell you what, you better bring your wallet, right? I mean, the prices of tickets anyway are getting only for special people, I think. Yeah. And the drinking is, probably done in the parking lot before the games more than it is the game.
They've banned tailgating. You can't show up with your RV and have a tailgate. Imagine, and that's the rule. There's people in yellow coats preventing Texans and Georgians from tailgating today.
Good luck with that.
Really?
Yeah, it's a whole mess, man.
Well, then, they're even getting rules for that now too, huh? So, it's all changed. It does help maybe save a few arrests and things like that.
Charlie McBride with us. That's pretty good. Coach, we'll talk with you next Monday. Good to spend time with you. Thanks for jumping on with us today.
Okay, guys, I'll be waiting to see how she goes tomorrow night, or what is it?
Tonight.
Monday?
Tonight, yeah.
Tonight. Yeah,
yep.
That's right. It is tonight. I'll tell you what, that's how much I know.
Yeah.
I just turn TV on and see where the commercials are. If it leads me there, that's good.
Coach, we'll talk. Take care. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later. Bye now.
Hail Varsity is a must-have for true Husker fans. Get a monthly magazine that'll make checking the mail fun again. Daily analysis and breaking news, including the inside scoop on recruiting on HailVarsity.com. And every June, you'll get the Nebraska Football Yearbook, a season preview completely dedicated to Nebraska football that's as comprehensive as national previews. Use that promo code AR for monthly subscriptions, that yearly promo code DB at HailVarsity.com.
What you've heard about probiotics is probably wrong.
I eat yogurt, so I don't need to take a probiotic.
Probiotics? They don't really work.
It's time to learn the truth about probiotics and join the Align Healthy Gut Team Up. Align has probiotics to naturally help relieve occasional bloating, gas, and abdominal discomfort. Try Align probiotics for a month and see how great a healthy gut can feel. Get $2 off your first month of Align at alignprobiotics.com.
Dad, I don't feel good.
I'll grab the Vicks DayQuil Kids Honey.
Isn't DayQuil just for parents?
Actually, Vicks DayQuil Kids Honey is just for kids, specially designed to treat kids' most bothersome cold symptoms quickly with a honeylicious tasting flavor kids like.
You know what else kids like?
DayQuil Kids Honey first, then video games.
Deal.
Vicks DayQuil Kids Honey, the kids' honeylicious daytime coughing, congestion, stuffy head, stuffy nose medicine. Safe for ages 6+.
Hey, couch potatoes. Want to slim down without a lot of work? With Limitless Male new weight loss treatment, you lose the weight without special diets or strenuous exercise. Our life-changing semaglutide weight loss peptide is FDA approved. You won't be hungry. Curb your appetite and get back to your fighting weight. Lose as much as 15% body fat over 28 weeks. Say goodbye belly fat. Schedule your free consult at limitlessmale.com.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
Use our sheets make cleaning look easy.
Husker fans, this is Matt Davison with the 1890 Initiative. You've probably heard about NIL, name, image, and likeness, and now you can have an immediate impact on the success of our programs. The 1890 Initiative is Nebraska's premier NIL company, and with your help, we can maximize our student athletes' opportunities with NIL and prepare them for life after college. Nebraska has always been a leader in college athletics. Let's do the same with NIL. To learn more, visit 1890nebraska.com, where 100% of your donation goes directly to Husker student athletes. That's 1890nebraska.com.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Brady Oltmans, staff writer, HailVarsity.com magazine, coming up here in about 15 minutes. Kudos, congratulations to dear friends. The Sportscasters of the Year award are out. Doug Duda. Gotta love you, Doug. Doug Duda from ESPN Superstation, 1460, 1550, Kearney Hastings. He is your Sportscaster of the Year.
That's great news. No one deserves it more than Doug.
Dude is the best. He's incredible. Evan Bland. Touchdown dance, Evan Bland. Good for both of you guys. That's awesome.
And
it's really cool.
I believe both first-time winners.
Yep.
Both first-time winners. That is some awesome news we're getting today. And Schmidt, I know you're going to have to get back in the competition here eventually to win your second, go defend your crown. I'm not sure how are you allowed to go back-to-back years? I don't think you are.
You're not allowed to go back-to-back years.
So you're going to have to come back and defend your crown now against Doug.
I would have
Duda.
gone Mayor Daley on the ballot box, selfishly. Okay. I mean, sorry. little vain here, but no, dude is awesome. Evan's awesome.
And those guys, Doug and Daddy Show, had some great coverage of Ryan Held and him being introduced as the coach of UNK last week. And I think it's perfect timing. This comes on the heels of that because I'm excited to see Held at UNK. I was following along with their coverage last week. And as I said a little bit earlier, nobody more deserving than Doug Duda of Nebraska Sportscaster of the Year.
Doug's awesome. Congrats. Practically with us. At Hail Varsity Radio.
And Evan as well comes on every Wednesday with us.
We love Evan.
One of the smartest Husker sports writers around. And I probably would have said that about anyone who would have won the award because there's plenty of super smart Husker sports writers around. But Evan Bland's one of the best to do it. Kind enough to join us every single Wednesday and put up with us. So love Evan, love Doug, and congrats to both of those two.
So what do you believe with the game tonight? We'll have open phones here for about 15 minutes. You want to jump in at 466-3776. Let me ask you this. Do you believe in TCU? Do you believe they are able to get it done, or is it just too steep a hill to climb? And this really comes down to what our old boy and dear friend Coach Walden always talks about. He's talked about this for years. Jim Walden, Riverboat Gambler, 5-star or 5-year, right? Most people in college football are 5-year. It's different now with NIL and the portal and all of that stuff. But for the most part, and Nebraska was great at this, where you get a kid, you develop them by years 3, 4, 5, contributor, starter, stud, or however the order went. Maybe they were a stud early. But the point is you got them in, you got them ready, and then they played. And then you just reloaded. Easier said than done. Georgia for years. Ohio State for years. They'd go 10-2, 9-3, but they always, when you looked at the NFL draft every May or April, there's 100 guys from the state of Georgia or from Georgia or from Florida State, or pick these schools that you think should have more national championships than they do. Last year, that was the first one since Herschel. It's been that long. They finished top 10 6 times under Kirby Smart. They played for, 4 or 5 of them, it feels like.
This is their fifth?
This is their fifth, but they have one to show for it, right? They're almost kind of like the Atlanta Braves. Sorry to pour salt on that one, Brave fans. But you get there, but you better do it while you're there and win it. Clemson took 2 down. And just the topic, guys, of going back to back. how rare that is, how difficult that is. And as a Nebraska fan at a certain age, you relish that you're a talking point tonight when it gets brought up, because Georgia's on the verge of doing something, the first in the playoff era to go back-to-back.
Mm-hmm.
But they're on the verge of being just one of a handful of teams to go back-to-back. 46-47 Notre Dame, 55-56 Oklahoma. You have Nebraska 94-95. You have Bama 2011, 2012, and that is it. Now you have other programs that have shared a second national championship, but here's who is not. Here are the programs that have won a ton of titles. They've won multiple titles, but they've never gone back-to-back. Urban's Florida teams never went back-to-back. His Ohio State teams never went back-to-back. Those great teams Lou Holtz had in the late 80s with Notre Dame, they never went back-to-back. Dabo never went back-to-back. Switzer never went back-to-back. He played for a consecutive championship I think they won it in 85, and they were right there in 86. That ended up being Miami Penn State, and then they played for it again in 87. All those Hurricane teams, I mean, the run, the U from 83 to 94 and then back again, the end of the Butch Davis era, those Canes teams never went back-to-back. They were on the verge versus Ohio State of going back-to-back, but the infamous penalty flag in the end zone during the Maurice Clarett era doomed that.
And that's the biggest one that surprises me of the ones you've listed, that Miami has never gone back-to-back.
They would always, from a scheduling standpoint, they get clipped by a Notre Dame, or they got too big for their britches, and in 1990 got beat by the Fighting Ty Detmers at BYU. So their schedule was always pretty loaded because they were playing a lot of independent teams. But guys, it's a marvel to go back-to-back, and as tough as it was for Nebraska in a lot of instances to have to, more times than not, play a Florida team in Florida. The Fiesta Bowl's different, but that Spurrier squad was pretty special that Nebraska dismantled. Nebraska really on the verge, if we want to go a little deeper, of a three-peat if they don't misstep and have a couple more guys available in 96. So going back-to-back is something special, but you just got to pinch yourself, honestly, as a sports fan, if you're a fan of a team that actually accomplishes that.
Or you have a chance of accomplishing that. I mean, it's rare to do it, but it's even rare in its own right to have a chance of going back-to-back. I mean, how many teams in the college football playoff era have played back-to-back? I think we're at 2. Bama went back-to-back and Clemson went back-to-back, and it was the same year. It was that year where both of them played each other, where Bama won it one year and then Clemson won it next.
You had more Clemson Bama sequels than Rambo movies at one point, where it just was every year, the Clemson Bama Part 4, Clemson Bama Part 15. I mean, how many Rocky movies are there? How many Clemson Bama games were there?
Well, I think that's almost what makes tonight interesting, is the fact that Georgia now is in that era of what Alabama was 5 years ago. Then it's Georgia where you go, how the hell do you beat this team? Even on an off day, they can still beat you. That's how I feel about Georgia, and that's what makes tonight so compelling to me, despite the fact that, as Brad said, it's the biggest mismatch since Bama and Notre Dame back in 2011. It still feels compelling simply for the fact of it's big, bad Georgia. Nobody's been able to beat him from the SEC. No one's been able to beat him for a couple of years now. You look at that Georgia team and you say, wow, it's a juggernaut. And they're going up against a team in TCU that has played the underdog role all year long. They've, responded to every single test that they've had, and they've won it, except that the Big 12 championship game, which I think is a bit of an exception with how TCU was a little bit banged up and how Max Duggan got banged up in that one. But you look at it, and this is the team. TCU is the team that everyone's been saying for the past couple of years, well, they don't have a shot at a college football playoff. They're not one of those big four. They're not Ohio State. They're not Georgia. They're not Alabama. They're not Clemson. Therefore, they're going to be one of those teams that even when they have a great year, it's them falling short. But tonight is where TCU gets the chance to prove that entire narrative from the past almost decade wrong. That, you know what? A team that isn't from the SEC, that isn't from the Big Ten, that isn't pulling in top 5 recruiting classes can go win a national title. That's what's on the stake, or that's on the line tonight for TCU. And that's why I'm so interested in this matchup.
Connor, TCU was a have for a long time, for about a 9-year run, 08, 2017. They were top 6 make it top 10 6 different times. They finished second in the country. They finished third in the country. But they'd been in the Mountain West, and they were a group of 5 squad, so they weren't really invited to the party. They the last 4 seasons, there were 2 games below 500, 21 and 23, and they needed an offense to go with the defense because it was a defensively centered team with Gary Patterson. You have Sonny Dykes come in. They have the same defensive tenacity. It's still that blueprint in the 3-3-5, but now they've got an offense and a playmaker at quarterback. They've always had dudes at the skill spots to get open. But TCU's able to access that Fort Worth talent, that state of Texas talent, and they've got a lot to say. They were kept out because they weren't in a big boy conference in past years. Then the big boy conference started taking it out on them. I mean, it just got too tough to navigate. What was a 12-1 season and a trip to the Rose Bowl turned into an 8-4, right? And then it went below that, and they made a coaching change. So they've been a really good program for the last 10, 12 years. Hit a bit of a skid, and now they're back. So I'll put it to you. Do you believe in them tonight?
I do. I don't think that they'll win, but I definitely think they'll cover that spread. And this is a team, and Elijah said it earlier too, that has played the underdog role the entire year, but I don't think they feel that way. Maybe they did for the first half of the year, but they start stringing these wins together. All of a sudden they're 6-0, and a team that had 200-1 odds to get to this point is now here. And I think they're tired of, hearing, oh, TCU's the underdog. And obviously they are, but to them, they belong in this situation. And to your point about going back to back, and I think people, including myself, forget how hard that is to do. And again, to just even have the chance to do that as well, because you think about it, you go through camp and all these other things. You go through the season, you get to the postseason, and you succeed in high-pressure situations. To do that all over again, and, the stress that has not only on your mind, but on your body as an athlete as well, and the coaching staff, that is a highly impressive feat. And the fact that Georgia, even though that they're uber talented and the best team in the SEC in the best conference, that doesn't make it any less impressive. I do think Georgia will win tonight, but I think TCU makes it a little interesting because both of the college football playoff games didn't really go according to how I thought they would go. I think this is the inaugural episode of Connor's Corner, which I actually like that name a lot. So good job, Ken. But I didn't expect TCU to beat Michigan, and I didn't expect Georgia to be close with Ohio State, and both of those things happened. So I think TCU makes it interesting, covers the spread, but I think Georgia ultimately ends up going back to back.
Connor is not in a hostage exchange situation. He's just in his quiet little
just my
place.
base.
Elijah Herbel. Yeah, it is. The wooden chair. It's timeout time. Brady Oltmans on the way with Hail Varsity.
Hey, I'm Andy. And every morning I wake up thinking about shaving. When I started almost a decade ago, the shaving industry was a mess. Flashy, overpriced razors as far as the eye could see. I just wanted a great shave at a fair price. Too much to ask? I didn't think so. And that's why I started Harry's. 10 years and 20 million Harry's customers later, we're still obsessed with giving you a quality shave experience. Sharper blades, a better lubricating strip, and making our handle grippy in all the right places. All upgrades based on your feedback. And it all comes at a great price. Seriously, as low as $2 per cartridge. These days, my mornings are a little bit different. Morning, girls. But I still wake up thinking about shaving. Our starter set has everything you need for a close, comfortable shave. 5-blade German engineered razor, weighted handle, and shave gel. Get yours now for just $3 with free shipping, backed by our quality guarantee. Just go to harrys.com now and enter code JOY at checkout. That's harrys.com, code JOY.
If you have ever thought about remodeling your bathroom but were worried it would take too long or cost too much, then stop worrying. Right now, Jacuzzi Bath Remodel has designed a collection of high-quality custom products and perfected the one-day remodeling experience so you can enjoy your new bathroom faster than ever before. It's a worry-free bath remodel from the most trusted brand name in the business, Jacuzzi. A jacuzzi bath system fits in your existing tub space. It's a no-mess installation with an amazing style selection, factory-certified installers, and a limited lifetime warranty. Call 800-717-4599. That's 800-717-4599. Right now and get 50% off installation with no interest and no payments for 12 months. Replace that old bathtub today with a walk-in shower for a safer bathing experience. If you have lived in your home for over 15 years, it's time to remodel your bathroom. For a virtual or in-home appointment, call 800-717-4599. That's 800-717-4599. 800-717-4599.
Whoa, is that an Apple HomePod Mini? The sound quality is amazing. Heck yeah, bestie. I got it from Members on Credit Union when I consolidated my debt. Wait, so you're saying when I move a credit card or loan balance over, I could drop debt faster with great interest rates and get a free HomePod Mini?
Mm-hmm. You get all that and free financial advice too.
Now that sounds like music to my ears.
Boost your financial power at Members Own. Move a pre-existing loan or credit card balance and get a free Apple HomePod Mini speaker. Restrictions apply. Go to membersowncu.org/boost for details.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Winding down national championship coverage 20 minutes away on some of our Hail Varsity Radio affiliates. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and Connor Clark. We welcome in Brady Oltmans with us here to talk Natty and recruiting and portal and all that good stuff. At Brady Oltmans on Twitter. Read him with HailVarsity.com and magazine. Subscribe. Do so. HailVarsity.com/offer to get the digital goodies and, of course, the magazine. Brady, what do you got rocking? You ready for the title game tonight? How are you?
Good, man. Yeah, hitting some stories, getting things lined up so I can actually sit down and watch this bad boy tonight.
And for our viewers watching on the live stream, I need you to dispel a rumor that I just made up, and that's that you and Connor are actually sitting in the same room right now. You got the same It looks like you're each in a different corner.
He's lucky. He gets a window.
Brady gets a window.
Yeah, I draw the actual long straw on that one, so I got to sit next to the window here.
Connor is safer from tornadoes, though, being away from the window, being closer to the interior of the house, I'd assume.
I think there's somebody with a ski mask and a machine gun standing behind.
I am nodding slowly.
So, how about those Huskers, Brady? Yes, they are going to be playing in this game a year from now.
Whether I want to say yes or not.
Yeah, whether I believe it or not. Let's get caught up. Where's Nebraska stand with some of their options in the portal on the offensive line? Let's go there. I know Nebraska's been chasing some guys that have visited. I know you got a timeline for one of the guys tomorrow at 8:00. That's going to be big for Nebraska to maybe add some more depth on that line. But you know, it's Makuzes, who I'm thinking of from the Baylor transfer, and then Walter Rouse. Can you give us an update on both of those options for Nebraska, and who else is chasing?
Well, Mizuka's interesting from the standpoint of he visited Nebraska and then Auburn and Florida in consecutive days. He had a very loaded official week last weekend. And like you said, he's due to announce his decision Tuesday night. So Nebraska will have a good idea then. I mean, those are two strong schools to go up against if you're trying to land a transfer portal guy. And then Rouse on the other end, he's a lot more interesting to me because he's not as active on social media. He hasn't really been updating as much, but he's also a guy who's got he's got more eligibility for one that makes him more intriguing. But he's also just, stronger on the interior, which is kind of fascinating to me. And obviously offensive line is a point that these coaches wanted to hit in the portal, get immediate depth there. That's why they got Ben Scott, the former Arizona offensive lineman, in. I'm sure that they'd like to get both of them. I'm not exactly sure if they're betting on getting both of them, but we don't have a timeline for Rouse yet. We'll see what comes out of there, or even if he's got a timeline for a decision.
Brady, between those two guys, Rouse and Mazuka, excuse me, is there a read that, if one comes, the other won't, or is this coaching staff in on both, trying to get both? Do you understand my question there? Just that, once one comes in, one might want to go elsewhere to try to find a spot with more playing time, or is there a real chance that Nebraska could land both these guys?
I think that there's a chance that they'll land both of them. I don't think that they're hedging bets by going after two, thinking that they'll only get one. Fundamentally, because I think that their strengths are at different positions. Micah's a little bit more of a tackle. He's more of a good, strong edge protector guy, especially on the blind side, whereas Rouse is more of an interior lineman that's going to create a little stronger run push for you. So their skill sets are different enough. Like I said, I think where this coaching staff sees the opportunity is they want to get two guys in, or as much, strength in numbers as they can, to kind of build depth in a competition to drive this offensive line and make a big leap from where they were last year.
Brady Oltmans is with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Brady, you mentioned Ben Scott just a couple moments ago. I want to talk about him a little bit more. What does his starting experience especially bring to this offensive line group, and how can he lead this group going into 2023?
Well, I think it's invaluable. Anytime, especially with transfer portal guys, anytime you've got a guy with significant starting experience on a consistent basis, those are the guys that you want to snatch up. And especially on the offensive line, where, you're clanging and banging with dudes 300 pounds for the, almost every snap of the game. And you're doing it for 10 games a year at least. So there's a reason why Nebraska's offensive line was no oddity last year, and having, different formations, or different combinations, I should say, not formations, with guys going down. You had a couple of guys out for the season and everything like that, which again goes back to they want to build depth. They want to make it a competitive position. If some guys get left out, I think they're relaying to the guys, hey, look, you're playing for your spot now. Like this, we want it. It's going to be good for you. It's going to get the best out of you. It's going to get the best out of everybody else, and it's going to make the best out of the program. So I think that's what they're looking for. And a guy like Ben Scott is, with those snaps and experience, his skill set stands out. But when it comes to significant Power 5 game time experience, I mean, you can't have enough of that at this level.
Brady, a thought here on Gatlin Bayer. He's a wideout from Idaho. Nebraska's on his trail for 2024.
Oh, I loved writing about that kid. I caught up with his coach the other day. He's one of those Mountain West guys. It's tough because Idaho doesn't get a lot of spotlight, which I think most Nebraska fans would probably find understandable based on its population and size density. But Gatlin's a kid who is just a blistering speed. He would stand out in any state in the 100 and 200 already, and this is just his junior. He just wrapped up his junior year. He just He just deadlifted 545 pounds the other day, and he's got a whole another year to go. He's one that he gained a lot of like Boise State offers. I think Washington State also offered him, and a couple of Power 5 offers going into his junior year. And then his coach said, "Who do you want? Who are some schools that stand out to you haven't heard from yet?" So they actually got in touch with Nebraska. And at that time, they were like, "Okay, we kind of like this." And then Scott Frost got fired, and the communication ties kind of severed there. But once Rule showed up, that really excited them over there. Coach Anderson and Gatlin himself, they got really excited because Gatlin wants to play in the NFL, and Matt Rule has that NFL experience. So they got in touch, and if a kid can run a 10-something 100 and he wants to play football, especially receiver for you, Matt Rule will give you the thumbs up, and it's like the sevens roll up in his eyes, like a jackpot. So they're very in. Of course, they're also contending with Michigan. Jim Harbaugh was another one that they were excited about and touch base with. So those Nebraska and Michigan right now are high on the list. His coach said at this point, if they had to say now, probably would come to Nebraska on an official visit at some point here because of his excitement for the program and everything. So he's one that I'm excited to keep an eye on.
Real quick, what happens tonight? TCU, Georgia, -12.5's the line right now.
It's really difficult, man, because everything on paper says that Georgia should just, go away with it. But everything we've seen out of TCU this year has just said never count them out, never put them that far behind because they're going to find a way to scrap with it. I think at the end of the day, Georgia wins, but I'm certainly not going to expect them to cover it all.
Okay. Well, I think we're at a decent consensus.
Well, we'll see. We're going to lock in our predictions after the break.
We will. We will get the prediction sure to go wrong.
Low stakes. I'm thinking whoever loses between the three of us and Brady's out in this one. I think and loser gets the tattoo of the logo of the winning team. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
low stakes. Connor, you in?
I'm not coming back to Lincoln.
Not an ink guy, says Connor. Brady Oltmans. Brady, we'll catch up later in the week. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, Brady Oltmans on Twitter. Read him with HailVarsity.com and magazine. Predictions, national title game on the way.
Shoot! Hey, Joe, that stinks. Girl, that ain't me. That's January. And January stinks because it's cold, boring, and I can't afford a slow start. So to speed things up, I have to do something absolute crazy, like turning the entire month at Capital City Automax into Drive for 5.
What's Drive for 5?
Drive away today for just $5 down or get up to $5,000 more than appraised value for your trade. January stinks, so help me deodorize with Drive for 5. Does your credit stink? Don't worry. My one and only for the people credit approval process works because I understand bad things happen to good people, and that stinks. Don't keep driving a car or truck you hate.
That stinks.
Trade with me today and get up to $5,000 more than it's worth. Not enough for down payment?
That stinks.
So drive away today in a nicer, newer car for as low as $5 down. But hurry, January stinks only until the end of the month. That's when I wipe this deal clean. I'm Joe Clemens, and I'm your dealer for the people. Come see Capital City Automax in Lincoln or online at approvedbyjoe.com. Approvedbyjoe.com. www.approvedbyjoe.com.
Price, effective trade allowance, all terms subject to approval, some minimum requirements.
Is this how you feel day after day? Like you've been hit by a truck? Limitless can fix that. Don't spend another day feeling like Limitless Mail has solutions to eliminate sleepless nights, belly fat, lack of energy, muscle loss, lack of focus. Limitless Mail providers are experts in hormone replacement, peptide therapy, and ED. Get ready to feel great again. Schedule a free consult at limitlessmail.com. Insurance accepted.
Hey, honey, how was your trip to Menards?
Awesome. The Menards bag sale is back.
What's the bag sale?
You grab a bag in store and save 15% on everything you can fit in the bag. I got a new cordless drill, LED bulbs to help with the electric bill, stocked up on toothpaste, always need batteries, and paint for the mudroom, plus all my favorite snacks. Where are you going?
Menards, we're out of cleaning supplies.
Hurry in. Grab a bag in store now through January 14th. Get 15% off everything you can fit in the bag. See store for complete details.
Anyone who has ever needed self-storage knows what a hassle it can be. You have to rent or borrow a truck and then find someone to help you move your stuff. And let's face it, moving furniture and heavy items without damaging them isn't easy. Renting the unit is worse. The hidden fees and admin costs are scarier than the dingy facilities you're leaving your stuff in. Why not use Closet Box instead? Closet Box is self-storage without leaving home. They'll pick up your belongings, store them securely, and bring any item back when you need it. The best part? Unlike traditional self-storage, you only pay for what you store. No paying for unused storage space. Closet Box's background check storage movers are licensed, bonded, and insured and will take care of all of the heavy lifting. Closet Box's local storage centers are temperature controlled and monitored 24/7. Closet Box has an A+ rating from the BBB. Call 877-233-5696 now for the season's best rates. Get $50 off first month storage using code Radio50. That's 877-233-5696. 877-233-5696.
I'm weatherology meteorologist Ray Miller with your Capital City forecast. Clear tonight, a low of 27 degrees. Tuesday, sunny with a high around 51. Wednesday, partly sunny, high temperature of 42 degrees. That's the forecast on Lincoln's ESPN. Right now, it's 46.
Call John Henry's today for a $99 heating system service to make sure your home can handle any weather Mother Nature has to throw at us.
45, 55, 55.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Hail Varsity Radio presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Big thanks to Brady Oltmans, Brad Edwards, longtime college football insider. He's covered a ton of national championship games. He joined us for a lot of hour one, and then Charlie McBride back with Uncle Charlie in 2023. He got us going in hour two. Podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google. Play the full show or segments of the show available for you. Watch the whole thing on Hail Varsity YouTube channel or the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle at HRadio. Chris Schmidt at Schmidt_radio. Elijah Herbel at Herbal Essence. Connor Clark in his hostage den at C_Clark_27. You were right, Elijah. You and with Brady and Connor, it's like they were in separate rooms with the same compound.
Yes. Oh, that's a better way to put it. It's got like the same background on the wall, like very much look like they were there against their will.
Both agreed to come on the show, I promise you. All right, lay out the facts. What happened with our steak and a beer NFL, and tell the world what you did with the whiskey marinade.
Okay, so I'll get to the whiskey marinade in a second because we are running out of time here, but I'll take us through steak and a beer before we lock in our predictions. I had Chiefs -9. You had Raiders +9, so that's a win for Elijah.
Mm-hmm.
We both had the Ravens to cover a 9-point spread, so we moved to the over-under.
That jumped to 11.5.
Yes, and last I checked, it didn't matter because we picked the same thing, so we moved to the over-under. I can check that for you. What was the final score of that game?
I don't know.
I got it pulled up in front of me. The Ravens lost by 11. So we both had Ravens +9. We're both wrong. But you had the over 39.5. I had the under 39.5. So you picked that one up. And then we moved to Sunday, where we both had the Jags to cover a 6.5-point spread, where we were both wrong.
Got hosed on that one.
You had the under 40. I had the over 40. It was under 40, 36-point scored. So that's a victory for you. But then we moved to the final game, which we picked 4 for some reason.
Did I say Green Bay?
You said Detroit +4.5. I had Detroit money line. So I win that one. So we're each at 2-2. We predicted the score of that one, though. You had 35-31. I had 24-21. So I believe I win the tiebreaker by being closer to the score and also having the Detroit money line, which means I would have made more money was the actual betting.
Okay,
so,
look at Elijah flexing right now.
So I believe that's my weekend.
But the whiskey steak, did you handle that?
It turned out fine. Needs the marinade needs a little work. I cooked it perfectly. It's just not like the steaks I usually cook, and ended up being just a little sweet. So I think I need to adjust the marinade, maybe a little bit more whiskey. I'll have it ready for the next time we do a steak and a beer bet and I lose.
Okay. All right. Connor, what happens tonight? Make your prediction. Give me score. Give me TCU or Georgia.
I think Georgia wins. I think TCU covers. Give me a higher scoring game. I'll go Georgia 45, TCU 38.
45-38. Connor says Bulldogs, but the cover for TCU. Elijah.
Georgia wins and covers 42-27. They get it done.
I'm going to go 38-20 win and cover for the Dogs. We'll recap it tomorrow with Hail Varsity at 4, presented by Currency.